was born on Deeside in the lowlands of Aberdeenshire, but I became fascinated by the Cairngorms when I was 9 years old. When I picked up Seaton Gordon's Cairngorm Hills of Scotland, and the place names attracted me.
Yes.
I even tried to learn Gaelic at that stage, but I couldn't get nowhere with it. But later on, I heard more from the Stockhouse, because I was a gillie there for 5 years when I was a student, and local people. And
You're okay.
And around about 1971, I met John Duff, who was a sergeant of police at Barter and had been in Braemar.
Yeah.
And he was interested in place names, and we put together about a dozen that he and I knew, which would have some local people.
Yeah.
And which weren't on the maps. And we thought, well, we'd better just check that there aren't any more. So we called on Colin McIntosh, who was, for many years, he was a keeper in Glencallater, and later became chairman of the Braemar Game Society. And that showed us it was the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
Because we were to go back to Colin.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't think that though, right? You would think that all the place names would be recorded on the map, right?
You would.
But once you start talking to local people, you discover that there's an awful lot of names. No.
You do.
Or the majority of names maybe even are not
So
recorded.
in the end, we visited hundreds of people. And the secretary at the Institute of Terrestrial Ecology, who was brought up in Barter, Elizabeth Allen, she came out and interviewed more people. So in the end, I think it was the best part of 300 local people.
Yeah.
And we recorded on tapes pronunciations.
Yeah.
And we also decided, all three of us, to learn Gaelic properly.
Right.
So we attended evening classes in Aberdeen. And
Was that the university?
No, it was evening classes, just in various places, run by the council, I think, Further Education Department.
Okay.
And so that's when I learned the grammar for the first time.
Sure.
Of course, this was the grammar of the West.
Yes.
Skye, Mull, and so on. And one of the things we found out early on was that there were dialects.
Yes.
Not surprising.
Yeah.
And the Braemar one was different from the West. It was very similar to the Spey. In fact, there was hardly any difference between the two.
Right.
Showing in a way the
communication
across the hills.
I mean, I would guess that the people in Strathspey and the people in Deeside, especially the Upper Deeside, would exchange.
Also, it was in Kirkgarth as well, in St John.
Yeah.
And curiously enough, East Sutherland had some resemblance to it.
All right.
Although there was no connection there.
Sure.
And East Perthshire, of course, there was a connection there. Not so strong as between Upper Deeside and Strathspey.
Yeah.
And the last evening class teacher that we had was a lady from Mull.
Right.
And she thought I was doing so well that she'd put me in for the O-grade exam, which I passed.
Yes.
And there was an oral,
yes,
which was conversation. So I learned a bit about that. So, I used to listen to the Gaelic on the radio.
Yes.
And understood the conversation.
Yes. Yes.
But the course of all this, at Crathy, we discovered the last living speaker of the Braemar Gaelic.
Yep.
It was thought by the School of Scottish Studies that it had become extinct in the early 60s at Braemar. And I remember Braemar folk speaking it, but this was later on. And we actually went to interview her son,
Yes.
who had practically no Gaelic at all, because his father was from Lowland, Aberdeenshire.
Right.
And he knew a few words, but
Yeah.
that was all. I mean, he had a good knowledge of the place.
Sure.
But his mother would just chip in occasionally
Yes.
with a very different pronunciation.
Yes.
And suddenly
Right.
realised and asked her about it. And she was illegitimate child from a Brimara lady, or Upper Deeside lady,
Yeah.
who'd gone to London. And she was born in London.
That's right.
Brought up there first. And then was passed on to her uncle and aunt.
Mm-hmm.
The uncle
Ronald
was
MacDonald.
Ronald MacDonald,
Yeah.
who was the head stocker in Mar,
Mm-hmm.
and his sister. And they lived at the Knock at Inverary.
Yes.
They spoke nothing but Gaelic.
Right.
And indeed, Bob Scott told me that Ronald MacDonald used to give the orders to the keepers in the morning in Gaelic,
Yes.
and they just had to get back to learn.
They had to figure out or find somebody else to tell them.
Anyway, Jean Bain
Yeah.
quickly learned, because she was, that's when you learn most quickly.
Yes.
When
young.
you're just a few years old. And she soon had her uncle and aunt getting her to go to the hen house to collect eggs or something if they wanted to have a private conversation.
Yes.
And she went and recorded her for many visits.
Yeah.
Got the School of Scottish Studies involved. And
Is that Aberdeen University?
no, it's Edinburgh University.
Edinburgh University.
Just part of Edinburgh University, and their linguistic expert came up, and there was even a radio broadcast
Right.
with Fred Macaulay, who was a
All right.
Gaelic speaker.
Is he a Gaelic speaker?
Fred Macaulay was. Yeah.
Oh, right.
And well, the one that came up anyway was, and so she was. I mean, she could understand English, but
Yeah.
she'd been a school teacher, but she liked speaking in Deeside in the Scots,
Yeah.
Northern Scots.
Sure.
That was her tongue, and
Yeah.
so I would speak to her in that. Would ask her about the Gaelic, and sometimes she would say, "Oh, I just dinna ken." But if there's something that she was vaguely remember.
Yeah.
Eventually, she died and became ill and went to hospital in Boyne.
Mm.
And there was a nurse from the Outer Isles there.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered this only later. I realised it would have gone earlier.
Yeah.
But she was in a semi-conscious state for a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And she spoke nothing but Gaelic
Right.
during that.
Yeah.
And the nurse could understand it, although
Yeah.
it was different.
Sure.
But of course, there would have been gems there, which we never got.
Yes.
Anyway, to sum up, the best informants, we would go back several times to
Yes.
see them.
Uh-huh.
And we'd take them out in the car
Uh-huh.
and take them out in the hill to actually go over the ground, because some of them weren't all that good at understanding maps and
Yes.
detailed locations. Some of such as John Robertson were spot on with
Yeah.
maps, but some weren't. So we took them out in the hill, and that unleashed lots more names.
Uh-huh.
Where you would go, you would get names not just for a field, but for different parts of a field.
Right.
Quite extraordinary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tiny wee hillocks and that sort
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
And with the best informant on Mar was Ian Grant at Inverary,
Mm-hmm.
whose mother was a native speaker from Athol, just across.
Yes. Blair Athol.
And so, although Ian wasn't fluent in Gaelic speaker, he understood it.
Right.
And the pronunciations of him were spot on.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was John Robertson. He was outstanding. And when I take when I take John out, even yet,
yeah,
he'll come away with place names I haven't heard.
Yeah.
In the course of a conversation.
Yeah.
And there was a farmer at Meekris near Crathy, which was one of the last Gaelic-speaking parts above Ballata, apart from Renard. And Willie Downey, he was excellent. And there were scores of other people who weren't quite that calibre, but very good.
Sure.
One of the things I realised with all this was that a lot of the names on the OS maps weren't what local people said.
Mm-hmm.
And there were sometimes wrong locations as well.
Yes.
There might be a kilometre out in location.
Yes.
Quite extraordinary.
That's right, yeah.
And it doesn't denigrate in any way what the surveyors did, because they were engineers.
Yes.
Army engineers. Because it was the Ordnance Survey, and it was part of the Army.
Yeah.
But they usually didn't have any understanding of the language, but they got local people to give them names.
Yeah.
And so in Ireland it was actually worse, because there, if you look at the Ordnance Survey map, nearly all names are anglicised.
Right.
I mean, the Irish government, since independence, has changed that.
Yeah.
But that's in the maps.
Yeah.
Show you. Early on, I got the School of Scottish Studies involved. They had a full-time place named a chap called Ian Fraser,
Mm-hmm.
who was a native speaker from Wester Ross.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought, we weren't sure if what we were doing was the best possible or good or bad or different. He thought it was tremendous.
Yeah.
And he made available to us a complete set of 1 to 10,000 OS maps covering the whole of Upper Deeside, which was the two parishes of Crathy and Braemar, and Ballata, Tulloch and Glengearan, and Silverton.
Yeah.
So that was great. And he gave advice to every stage. And when it got down to writing the book, we had help from every one of the best scholars.
Right.
Donald Macaulay, professor of Celtic at Aberdeen. I spent umpteen evenings in his house.
Yeah.
Going over the list.
Yeah.
And another was Nicolaisen.
All right.
Who was, in a way, a kind of father of place names.
Yeah. He's a professor at Aberdeen, is that right?
He became a professor at Aberdeen. He's a German who was in North America, in the United States.
Right.
But he was international outlook.
Right. Yeah.
And he wrote a foreword for my book, or our book, and thought it was the best thing in Scotland so far as a regional study.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But there were other people who were outstanding pioneers that I never met.
Yeah.
One was William Watson, same name as me, but totally unrelated. He was a native speaker from Easter Ross.
Right.
It's completely gone from there now, but he was brought up at near Ballantor, near east of Tane.
Right.
And he wrote an excellent book on the place names of Ross and Cromarty.
Right.
And then later a classic one on place names of Scotland.
Yeah.
And another was McBain, who was rector at Inverness Academy, brought up in Glenfishie.
Oh, really?
He wrote on the place names of Inverness and Argyll and so on.
Yeah.
And these folk were really critical because
Yes.
they could see what was wrong with the OS.
Yes.
What was wrong.
Yes.
They knew that you had to go and talk to local people.
Yeah.
And at the time there was a flurry of books and studies by people who made no attempt to ask local people.
No.
They just sat in a desk somewhere,
Yeah.
looked at the map,
Yeah, and went from
didn't
there.
understand the local Gaelic,
No.
and wrote books that were largely worthless.
Yes.
And they pointed out as early as the early years of the 1900s.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, William Watson was working about the First World War.
And it's still the lesson is still not all
No.
that sunk in.
No.
Because, for example, the SMC, the Mountaineering Club, which
Yeah.
I'm a member of, they published a book in Scottish held names by a chap called Peter Drummond.
Uh-huh.
It was an attempt to make it available to the wider public.
Yeah.
But you see, he never asked any local people,
No.
accepted what was on the map,
No.
made all these mistakes.
No.
Anyway, that's the background. And our book was published in 1984.
Yeah.
And since then, I've gathered some names, which were not in that book.
Mm-hmm.
But that book has got thousands of names. And it's probably got thousands unpublished. It went in the US
Yes.
maps.
Yes.
And we just heard from the local people.
Yeah.
Since that book, I've cooperated with Ian Murray and Ballater, and we've published a few things. One, there was a lesson in the Cairngorm Club Journal,
Yes.
and later cooperated in a book called Place Name Discoveries,
Yeah.
where that includes the Cairngorm Club one.
Mm-hmm.
And a bit earlier, I think about 2012, I produced another book on place names, which was much of northeast Scotland,
Yes.
and that went from Glenshee and Blairgowrie, not onto the Perthshire lowlands, but on the braes, along the braes of Angus, all the Angus glens,
Yes.
and then the whole of Kincarnshire, the coast
Uh-huh.
in Kincarnshire, because the fishers had names
Yeah.
on the coast, and then the fishermen working offshore, they had names for the fishing grounds. So for places like Godwin,
Uh-huh.
so they're all in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a chapter in St Don parish, because I'd interviewed quite a lot of folk there for the earlier book,
Mm-hmm.
but of course discovered a lot of names from St Don.
Yes.
And then there was a chapter on the area where I was brought up, Lower Devon side, where I didn't list the informants because I grew up with them,
Yeah.
but there were hundreds of them.
Sure.
So that was other things I've done. Now one of the things that interested me was the local indigenous pronunciations, because even if the OS got the map location and name right,
Yeah.
it was often an anglicised version, or local people would
Yeah.
pronounce it in an anglicised manner.
Yeah.
And I was keen to know what the authentic
Yeah. Just keep going. I'm just
Aye.
checking that it's still rolling.
indigenous pronunciation was.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't forgotten. Yeah, I can still remember.
Mm.